Okay, Vans UltraRanges. Are they any good? Are they worth $90? I'm going to be talking about every little thing that has to do with these shoes. I'm going to assume if you're watching this video, you don't have the shoe on you and you're just looking for some video out there online that talks about every little thing about the shoe. So my biggest gripe about the shoe is the grip. I think right out of the box, it is just sort of unpredictable on certain surfaces. Of course, it does fine on concrete or brick or any gritty surface. I think most shoes do fine on those surfaces, but when it comes to railings or metal surfaces, the biggest problem is the studs. When you do a rail precision, you really want to feel the entire rail, and it just prevents you from making contact with the entire rail. The actual material this rubber is made out of is okay, it just dusts sometimes, so when you're trying to wipe that dust off in the beginning, those studs make it feel like you're rubbing a cheese grater, but over time that wears off, so it'll just feel like you're rubbing a flat shoe. So it takes some time to get used to, and of course the more you wear the shoe down, the flatter these studs become, so when you do a rail precision, maybe like a couple months into wearing it, it becomes a little bit easier. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna give this grip like a 5 out of 10 in the beginning, but I'll bump it up to an 8 out of 10 once you wear it. Okay, let's talk about the cushioning. So I think there's a ton of cushioning here, and I think this is honestly the most cushioning I've ever had in a shoe. Just note that the toe area has less cushioning than the heel area, so there's a bit of that heel to toe drop, which some people like, some people don't. If you're doing stuff that Dom does, like heavy impact, I think the shoe is perfect for that. Just note that there is less cushioning on the toe area, but I mean, there's still a ton. So if you land on your toe, your heel, or anywhere in between, you'll be perfectly fine. Also, if you're looking to take your flips onto concrete, I think this shoe is perfect for that because of the extra cushioning you get in your heel. So if you under rotate a flip, you'll be perfectly fine. I think what Bailey does is a perfect example of how someone can utilize the shoe for the cushioning. Okay, the insole. So normally I wear a size 7, but I got a 7.5 because I wanted to put insoles in the shoe, and it was winter when I got the shoe, so I was wearing pretty thick socks. So those two things made the shoe feel like a size 7 for me. However, I think that you probably want to just go for your own size because I think the shoe does fit true to size. So I think the insole does come like kind of fixed to the bottom, but it's relatively easy to take off. It's not like glued or anything, and under that it's just like the actual shoe. Also, it doesn't really have that much cushioning, it's just more of a barrier between the bottom of the shoe and your foot. But it's nice to know that you can take it off, kind of like it's stuck to the shoe, but you could take it off if you really wanted to. I don't know why I don't want to give the shoe a 10 out of 10. I'm finding like a reason to not, but I'll give it a 10 out of 10. Okay, flex. I think the shoe is pretty flexible. Can flex in all directions, even backwards. So this shoe is pretty flexible. I think that it's just a little odd because you have all this cushioning and then you have a super flexible shoe, so when you're doing something like a rail precision, you can't really feel what's under you because of all that cushioning. So the flexibility is definitely there. You can walk on all sorts of terrains and feel perfectly fine, but for parkour related stuff, I'll give it like a 7 out of 10. Okay, so another thing I don't like about the shoe is the design. I think the shape the bottom makes here looks like a peanut, and it's just sort of unnatural for your foot, especially if you're coming from a shoe like this. It just won't feel natural, at least in the beginning. Once you get used to it, it's fine, but if you're doing things like techie rail challenges, sometimes you'll misplace your foot and it'll feel like a ghost step. The cushion will touch the ledge or the rail, but your foot won't, so you might slip. Also, if you do climbing sort of challenges, this shoe's probably not ideal for that because you want a skinny shoe that can fit into tight corners and spaces, and this shoe is just not ideal for that type of training. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10 for the design. Okay, let's talk about the weight. I think that this shoe is like a cloud. I'm just gonna give it a 10 out of 10 because it's super light, and especially for not wearing insoles, this shoe is like mad light. I think it's one of the lightest shoes I own. So if you really like light shoes, consider this one because it's super light. Okay, the material of the upper. Because the shoe is pretty light, they had to use super thin material for the upper, but honestly for 6 months it hasn't ripped one bit, and I'm super happy with the durability of the materials they used. This side part is like mesh, so if you're planning on skating in it, I probably wouldn't. I think some reviews online also said the same thing. You will rip right through the shoe if you try to skate in these. By skating, I mean like ollie and kickflip. You can skate it normally, but just don't do anything that'll rub against the top part of the shoe because it is pretty thin. I think the more flip-flop-esque and minimal your shoe is, the better it is for your ankle, because if you do end up rolling it, your foot will either just slide right out or it'll like just stand on this side of the shoe, if that makes any sense. I'm speaking from personal experience. I used to wear a high top for parkour and I sprained my ankle once in that, and I just started wearing more minimal shoes and I've never sprained my ankle since. So someone can write in the comments if that theory holds for them as well, but I think the less support you have, the better. I know that makes 0 sense, but it also makes a lot of sense for if you're doing parkour related things. So if you're curious, it has 8 eyelets, the holes that your shoelaces go into, and there's also a place on the tongue that lets you slide your shoelace through that. I put it on wrong, but there's a ton of different holes, so you can experiment with what type of shoelacing style you want. And overall, I think they did a great job with the material. They kept it pretty light but comfortable. You can, if you really wanted to, just go barefoot and you wouldn't get blisters. I don't. There's that, but wearing socks is probably ideal because it's not the most comfortable without socks, but you can. I also really like these holes they gave you for putting on your shoe. It makes it super convenient. If you, let's say, get like a size down and your shoe's pretty tight, this is like a game changer for putting on and off your shoe. And if you're concerned for how it looks from far away, it's barely noticeable. So for material, I would honestly just give it a 10 out of 10. I think there's not much to do with the shoe here. I mean, you can't really add too much padding or it'll become heavy, and the materials they chose here are durable enough so that you can run the shoe for quite a while. So I'm gonna put style last because I think it's all opinionated, and personally in a parkour shoe I like it when it's really minimal and doesn't have too many wild neon colors or brand logos. So this did the job for me. It looks fine and you can go out, have a normal day, and then if you see a spot that you want to train at, you have your parkour shoes, you can also do that. So I think I'll give the style an 8 out of 10. It just does the job. It's Vans, it's classic, it's whatever. So overall, I think the shoe is great. I would buy it again. They do the job, they look great, they form well, they're pretty durable, the grip is okay. The shape is a little weird, but it's fine. And yeah,